Hey there. Tonight, you're waking up in a Viking longhouse. No, not as a warrior. Not with a horned helmet and a sword raised to the sky. You're not on a raid. You're not even special. You're just one of them. A regular person in a cold, dark village where the fire smokes instead of warms. The goats sleep inside, and your bed is made of wet straw and sore joints. And before you say you could handle it, I should warn you. You probably wouldn't last a day. Not because you'd be attacked, but because the chores never end. The cold never leaves. And the smell never gets better. Tonight, we're stepping quietly into that life. The creaking wood, the frozen boots, the cracked hands, the aching silence. No battles, no glory, just survival. Slow, constant, and deeply human. Before we begin, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if this is your kind of slow burn history for sleep. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time. It is right now. It's always fascinating to see who's doom scrolling their way into a Viking nightmare with me at 3 a.m. All right, dim your lights. Maybe throw a blanket over your shoulders. And let's ease into this world together, quietly. Slowly, step by step, that you wake in the longhouse. Not to an alarm, but to smoke in your lungs and ice on your breath. You wake slowly, not because you are startled, and not because something has called your name, but because time has quietly nudged your body out of sleep. There is no sudden urgency, no alarm, no flicker of movement, only the soft return of awareness, as if your bones, one by one, have remembered that they belong to a world where cold waits patiently outside of dreams. The first thing you notice is not sound, but weight, not the heaviness of blankets, nor the ache of limbs, but the dense presence of the air around you, thick, motionless, and full of smoke. It fills the space beneath the low rafters like water in a well, pressing gently down into your chest, as if the longhouse itself has not exhaled since you last closed your eyes. The air smells of old pine and tallow, of ash from yesterdays, fire, and of wool worn too long to be clean. Not foul, but familiar, like the scent of a home carved into a harsh and unforgiving land. You do not open your eyes right away. There is no reason to. You already know what you will see. You know the roof above is close, dark with soot, and uneven where the timber bows under years of frost. You know the fire pit at the center is sleeping, no longer burning, but not yet dead. And you know the others still lie nearby, bodies bundled in old pelts and coarse blankets, breathing softly through mouths half open to the cold. You turn slightly in your bedding. The straw beneath your back crunches with the sound of dried grass compressed too many nights in a row. It shifts like parchment, stiff and quiet. The wool beneath you is scratchy and moist, its edges still damp from the frozen breath of night. No bedding here stays dry for long. Not when snow melts through boots and smoke clings to everything. You reach for the top blanket, a patchwork of felted wool sewn long ago, its edges fraying and stiff. its weight more symbolic than warm. It smells like everything else, like cold, like old skin, like breath shared with too many others in too little space. A cough echoes faintly from the far end of the house, dry and hollow. Then silence again. A shuffling of feet near the goats. A muted thud of someone turning in sleep. You feel the rhythm of these sounds before you hear them fully, as if your body recognizes them as part of the natural order, like wind against stone or water over rock dot. The longhouse never becomes quiet. It only shifts its weight. It sighs, groans, stirs, breathes. Never loudly, never all at once, but always, always beneath you, around you, through you. You lie still, not because you are resting, but because you are listening. Listening. For change, for movement, for light, but there is none. The world outside the house is just as silent. The snow muffles everything. Sound, distance, even time. You breathe in again. This time slower. The air feels as though it has never been. New. It tastes of soot, of damp wood, of the long nights that came before this one. Your hands reach down to your feet, tucked beneath layers of hide and frayed linen. They are cold, not dangerously so, just enough to remind you that this is not a place of comfort. This is a place of endurance. You open your eyes, barely, just enough to see the faint outline of the beams above, the shadows draped between them, like forgotten cloth. There is no sunlight, only the soft glow of fading embers, low and red, waiting to be coaxed into life again. You do not rise yet. You let yourself lie there for another moment, because even in the stillness, there is labor waiting, and the cold outside your blanket is the same cold that will meet you in the water, in the boots, in the wooden pail you'll carry before the sky has even turned pale. But for now, you breathe, you listen, you remember where you are, not in a story, not in a legend, but in a long, low house built of timber and soil, surrounded by others who live this same rhythm. Day after day, life after life, through frost, fire, and silence. You are awake now. But the world does not demand your full attention yet. It allows you this moment, between the ending of sleep and the beginning of duty dot. So you wait and breathe and listen in the dark. The longhouse breathes even when no one moves. It is not loud. It does not groan like the trees in wind, nor hum like the sea. Its breathing is quiet, the kind of quiet that lives deep in the chest, where you feel it more than hear it. Slow, even rhythm made of shared warmth, slow exhales, and the settling creaks of aging wood. The smoke is everywhere now, not rising in plumes, but spread thin across the air like the memory of a fire. It has been here for hours, crawling just below the rafters, suspended like mist on a still lake at dawn. It never truly leaves. The roof lets him slip away, but only enough to keep breathing from becoming too heavy, just enough to keep the air possible. There is no chimney, no stack to draw the fire's waste toward the sky. Only a single opening, a smoke hole above the hearth, and it is small, round, often blocked by frost or moss, or the stubborn silence of winter wind. So the smoke remains inside. It drifts in soft columns, rises then falls, and clings to every surface with invisible fingers. Your throat knows it. It rasps gently with every breath, not painfully, but like the subtle reminder of another world within your own. A world where smoke is not poison, but presence. You hear the air move, just a little, when someone exhales near the back wall. Their breath stirs the hanging furs, sways a carved charm tied to the beam above. It is not sound. It is motion disguised as silence. Somewhere, a chicken rustles in its enclosure, tucked beside the wall, its body puffed for warmth, its feet folded beneath layers of old straw and feathers. It will not cluck yet. It waits, as you do, for the sky to change. Another cough, dry, distant, and quickly swallowed. A child mutters something in sleep. A foot kicks against a wooden support beam. Then, stillness again. Perfect. Breathing. Stillness. The longhouse holds more than people. It holds their lives, their meals, their sweat, their whispers, their quiet endurance. It holds the scent of stew that burned 2 nights ago, the oil from a tallow lamp long since extinguished, the salt of smoked meat, and the faded sweetness of the last apple dried in autumn. The air tastes of all of this. It enters your nose like history. Not loud history, not battles or banners, but the kind passed through hands and tasks and breath. The smell of home is not a perfume here. It is a mixture of work, survival, and things left unspoken. You look toward the ceiling again. The beams curve low, blackened from decades of smoke. They are slick with the grease of time, not wet, but touched again and again by warmth, by breath, by the slow drift of air over years of nights like this. Every surface here has learned patience. The air especially. It does not rush. It does not push. It sits. It waits. It wraps around you like a woolen shawl, not for comfort, but to remind you that you are part of this place, as much as the rafters, as much as the smoke, as much as the embers that still glow in the pit behind you. You close your eyes again, just for a moment, not to sleep, but to feel the air settle around your skin, soft like ash, invisible, but everywhere. And you breathe in. Not deeply, not fully, just enough. The same air they breathed before you, your father, your grandmother, a child born. In this same spot 3 winters ago. It is not new. It does not need to be, because here, in this longhouse, nothing is wasted. Not breath, not warmth, not silence. And so you lie still a little longer, surrounded by the air they breathed, the silence they shaped, and the space they once called morning. You open your eyes again, not with purpose, but with quiet readiness, the kind that comes not from energy, but from necessity. A gentle pull forward into motion. Your limbs move beneath the blanket, slow and heavy. Not weak, just full of. Cold, the kind that sinks deep during long nights and does not rush to leave. You sit up. not all at once. First, your arms stretch across the woolen layer, then your shoulders rise, and finally, your spine stacks itself one vertebra at a time, like a ladder rebuilt in slow silence. Your breath fogs the air in front of your lips, a soft cloud, gone as soon as it appears. It joins the rest of the smoke already waiting. The hearth lies quiet before you, not lifeless, only sleeping. Its shape is familiar, a circle of rough stones packed with ash, dark with soot, rimmed by bits of charred wood. At its center, the coals still glow, not bright, but steady, the last whispers of last night's fire. You lean forward, careful not to wake anyone near. This moment belongs to you. Tending the fire is not just a chore, it is a ritual, a responsibility passed through generations, hand to hand, breath to breath. You reach for the bundle of birch bark, kept dry in a clay bowl beside the stones. The bark curls like parchment, light and brittle, its edges curled from age and heat. You slide a few pieces near the coals, then place 3 splinters of pine atop it, thin and dry, gathered weeks ago and kept for mornings like this. You crouch. Close. The earth is cold beneath your knees. Your hands cup around the bundle. You blow, gently, slowly. The breath stirs the ash. The ember shifts. Then, a flicker. A thread of orange appears, and with it, the first tendril of heat. You breathe. Again, slower. The flame stretches upward. It licks the pine. A crackle answers. Not loud, just enough. And the fire begins, it does not burst into life. It unfurls. Like a fern, like dawn. It glows. And slowly, the room responds. You feel it first on your fingertips. That thin shimmer of heat that dances just above the kindling. It brushes your skin, familiar as an old friend, welcome as a returned traveler. The coals awaken now. They shift beneath the new fuel, catching light, offering smoke, offering warmth. You feed the flame with a small piece of dried spruce, its needles long gone, its bark peeled in strips. It catches, it crackles, it speaks. The light begins to reach the floor. Shadows fall away from the corners. The curve of the roof appears again. The beams show their texture, scarred and blackened from countless fires past. The room breathes differently now, softer, warmer, as if something ancient has turned over in sleep. You do not smile. There is no need. This is not joy. It is ritual, and ritual holds its own kind of peace. You sit beside the fire for a moment longer, palms open, facing the heat. Your hands do not ache as they did moments ago. The blood has begun to flow again, not rushing, but returning. You look down at the bowl of ash beside the hearth. It is not waste. It is history. It is memory. The remnants of every fire before this one. Each day's warmth, each night's. Light, now resting in soft gray powder. You stir it gently with a stick, making room for new wood, clearing a path for flame to grow. There is no hurry. The house does not demand speed. It only requires rhythm. And this is the rhythm. Wake, breathe, tend, rise. Fire comes before food, before chores, before anything. Because without fire, there is no beginning. Outside, the sky is still the color of slate. The sun remains hidden behind the horizon. But inside, the world has changed. The longhouse is no longer just a shape in the dark. It is a home again, alive in its quiet way. And you, for this small moment, are its keeper. The fire has awakened, but it does not chase the cold away. Not completely. Not here. Not in this place, where warmth is never whole. Only borrowed, only brief. You rise from your crouch beside the hearth. Your knees ache as they unfold. Your back protests, not with pain, but with memory. A reminder of yesterday's labor, of years spent bowing under weight, a winter never truly ending. Your breath curls again in front of your lips. Even now, even near the flame, the air bites softly at your skin, not as a threat, but as a fact. The cold is not cruel. It is constant. It is the shape of everything in this world. You reach for your tunic, still hung on the peg beside. Your bedding, the wool is coarse. It was spun thick, but not thick enough. It holds the scent of last week's fire, and of the salt left behind from hours of sweat that never quite washed away. You pull it over your head slowly, the fabric scratching. Your arms as it slips down. The collar rests heavy on your collarbone. You tug the sleeves into place. One shoulder still bears the stitch where it was mended. A patch sewn by tired fingers late one evening. Not pretty, but strong. You add another layer, a heavier. Wool, this one darker, denser, and stiff along the hem. It folds poorly, but holds heat better. The elbows are worn. The cuffs are fraying. But it serves its purpose. To hold the cold just a little farther from your bones. Your legs are already wrapped in linen. 2 layers, tied with leather cords. Not enough to keep out the chill, but enough to keep your skin from stiffening. Your feet, you pause, looking down at the boots. Seal hide, cracked along the sides. The soles are patched with bits of stitched wool and deer sinew. They are not dry. They never truly are. Yesterday's snow melted inside them, and you hung them. Upside down overnight, but still they remain, damp, heavy, cold. You slide them on. The leather clings to your toes. You feel the chill rise up from the sole, through your ankles, into your shins. You wince just slightly, but you do not remove them. You do not complain, because this is simply what it is. You fasten them, tight with rawhide lace, each knot pulled firm, not because it will make them warmer, but because it must be done. You stand slowly and feel the weight of it all. The clothing, the cold, the duty, the day. Your arms fold briefly across your chest, not for comfort, but to test your movement, to feel the way your layers will stretch and bend with you as you move through the tasks ahead. Your breath is steady now. The air you take in feels colder than before, not because the room is cooled, but because you've become more awake, more exposed, more ready. You reach for the belt that hangs on the wall. Simple leather, cracked, darkened with use. It holds a small knife in a wooden sheath, a pouch with flint and steel, a loop of braided cord. You fasten it around your waist. You tug once to make sure it holds. It does. You crouch again to brush snow from the seam of the door. A drift has crept, and overnight sifted through the cracks like flour. You scoop it with your hand, toss it into the fire pit's edge. It hisses, melts, disappears, but the cold does not vanish. It simply watches. It waits. It reminds. You feel it in your fingertips, even after the fire. In your knees, even after you've stretched. In your teeth, when you breathe too deep. But you do not fight it. You do not curse it. You carry it. Like your boots. Like your knife. Like the silence that follows you through every room dot. This is the cold that stays. A kind that teaches, not punishes. The kind that builds slow strength in. The marrow of your bones. You step back from the hearth. You do not look back at the blankets. There is nothing to return to there. Only sleep that has ended, and straw that still holds your shape. Instead, you reach for the small bucket by the wall. Empty, rough-hewn, its handle worn smooth where your fingers always hold it. The day begins, and the cold, still wrapped around your shoulders, walks with you into the morning. Before you step outside, you turn again, not out of hesitation, but because there are still things here, things that wait for hands to touch them, to remember them, to carry them forward into the day. The longhouse is full, not crowded, but full. Full of quiet things, humble things, each one shaped not by beauty, but by use, by years, by necessity. On a shelf beside the fire, a row of clay bowls rests. Each is imperfect, some wide and shallow, others chipped or leaning. Their surfaces bear the fingerprints of the one who shaped them. Long pressed into the clay, been fired in the same hearth you just stirred to life. One bowl still holds crumbs. Yesterday's bread, now hard and dry. Not enough to eat, but too precious to throw away. Later it may be boiled, softened into porridge, stretched into something more. Next to it, a wooden spoon. Its handle darkened by the oils of countless meals. A curve of its bowl worn smooth from stirring. You've seen that spoon in your mother's hands, and hers in her mother's. No part of it is elegant, but it fits your palm like it belongs there, because it does. You reach for it, hold it a moment, then place it down again. Along the opposite wall, a pile of tools lies beneath a linen cloth, folded in a quiet way, as if to suggest their day is not yet ready to begin. A bone needle, thread still looped through its eye. A pair of iron shears, slightly rusted near the hinge. A length of twisted flax, damp from the night's frost, waiting to be spun into something useful. Above them, hung from a wooden peg, rests your father's axe. Not the kind used for battle, not heavy or sharp or carved with runes. Just a work. Axe simple, solid, with a broad head and a hickory handle worn smooth, where fingers have gripped it 1,000 times. There is a dark spot on the haft, not from blood, but from sap or perhaps oil. It has never been cleaned, because there was never a reason to. Near the door, a rope hangs coiled, braided by hand, fiber twisted tight. You check it gently. It is still strong, still dry, still ready. A fishnet rests folded in the corner. It is torn, a small hole near the seam. You'll mend it later. Not now, but soon. Before the thaw. Before the herring come. You turn back toward the hearth once more. Beside it, a child's toy lies abandoned, a carved horse no larger than your hand, made from birch and etched with dull patterns. Its legs wobble, its head tilts slightly, but it has survived more winters than some children do. You pick it up, turn it in your fingers, place it back exactly where it was. The things you touch in this house are not possessions. They are not luxuries. They are the quiet tools of continuation. They do not glitter. They do not break easily. They are made to last, to endure, to wait. The longhouse holds your story, not in words, not in ink, but in touch. In where? In there? Smoothing of handles, the chipping of bowls, the fraying of cloth. Every object here bears the mark of repetition, of being used again and again, without praise, without thanks, but always with care. You take the water pail. You wrap a cloth around your neck. You nod once, to no one in particular, and step toward the door, but the things remain. The things wait, and they will be here when you return. Asterisk, the door creaks softly as you push it open. The sound is small, but it cuts through the stillness like a line through fresh snow. It's the first true noise the world has heard from you today. Everything until now, the breath, the fire, the movement, has been quiet enough to go unnoticed. But this is the first deliberate sound. Cold air pours in the moment you open the door, not as a gust, just as presence. It moves slowly, curling around your ankles, slipping beneath your tunic, reminding you again that fire never reaches far in this world. You step outside, and the cold steps with you. Your boots crunch faintly in the snow, a brittle crust on top, soft underneath. Each step sinks slightly, not deep, but enough to feel. The world gives way beneath you, then holds you again. The sky above is pale gray, not storm gray, not thunder gray, just quiet. A lid of cloud stretched across the sky, soft and endless, glowing faintly where the sun waits behind it, not yet ready to rise. The village is silent. Smoke trails rise from one or two other rooftops. Longhouses like yours, or others, now move through the same quiet rhythm, tending their fires, pulling on boots, shuffling toward chores. You see no one, but you know they are there. You lift the pail, its wooden slats bound with iron hoops, and begin the walk to the creek. It is not far, perhaps 20 steps, but in snow, every step feels longer, as though time stretches between footfalls, as though the weight of the cold slows. Everything it touches, the path is not marked. but you know it by memory. You've walked it in darkness, in wind, in deep snow and shallow mud. You could walk it with your eyes closed. The trees do not sway. There is no wind, just cold, dense, and unmoving. When you reach the creek, you kneel beside the edge. The surface has frozen again. Not fully, just enough to form a thin, cloudy sheet across the top. You press your hand against it. The ice gives slightly, cracks, and opens to reveal water beneath. Dark, slow-moving, ancient dot. You dip the bucket. The wood creaks as it fills. The cold water splashes your wrist, and the sting runs up your arm like fire in reverse. You flinch, but say nothing. You lift the bucket slowly. The water sloshes. You wait for it to settle, then rise. The return is harder. Always is. The bucket pulls at your shoulder. The cold presses at your jaw. But you do not rush. You walk the same as you came. Deliberate, measured, aware of each step. When you reach the longhouse again, you set the pail beside the door. Not inside, not yet. First, the animals. The goat pen is behind the house. You step toward it, your breath fogging in front of you. Each breath, a signal to the cold. I am still here. The goats hear you coming. They do not call out. They shift. They rise from their straw. They wait. You open the gate with a soft click. Inside, the air is no warmer, just thicker, smelling of wool and soil and waste. You check each goat. Hands moving over fur, fingers, searching for frostbite, ears, hooves, bellies. They grunt quietly, lean into your touch. They know this ritual. They do not resist. The straw is still dry. The shelter held through the night. No sign of sickness. No sign of birth. No blood in. The corner. You nod to yourself. No words needed. You refill the trough with what little hay remains. You pat the old goat once on the shoulder. She doesn't move. She simply accepts, and you step back out into the snow dot. The chores are not finished. There is always more wood to split, nets to mend, ash to sweep. But for now, for this moment, the water is drawn. The goats are alive. The fire is lit. You've done what was required. Not everything, but enough, Dot. And in this life, in this world, enough is everything. You walk slowly now, not because you're tired, but because the world outside demands a slower pace. Not by law, not by rule, but by rhythm, by silence, by frost. The sun is still hidden. The sky has brightened only slightly. Not blue, not gold, just a faded gray, like the underside of a woolen cloak left too long in the snow. You let your eyes wander. The village is quiet, but not empty. Smoke rises from rooftops. Thin trails that drift upward, then flatten as they meet the cold ceiling of morning cloud. Each column marks a home. A hearth. Awaking, you do not see the people, but they are there, inside their longhouses, tending to embers, buttoning tunics, pulling frozen boots onto aching feet, living like you, in the rhythm of need. The paths between homes are not roads. They are ruts, beaten by foot and sled and hoof, pressed into the earth season after season. In summer, they are mud. In winter, they freeze into memory. You walk past the old well. Its rope is coiled, the bucket overturned beside it. Nobody uses it in deep winter, not when the stream still runs beneath its cracked skin of ice. Still, it stands, a reminder, a relic. The fences are rough, split logs, woven branches, lashed with twine. They lean slightly now, warped by snow and time, but they hold. They always hold. A cart sits beside one house, half buried in drift, its wheels frozen, its bed empty. But in spring, it will creak. Again, it will carry hay and barrels, and perhaps one day, the body of an old man to rest. The cart does not know its purpose. It simply waits. You see a raven overhead. It lands on a beam, black against gray. It watches you without movement, its eyes sharp, but not threatening, only aware, as if you are just another shape in the snow. Beneath your boots, the snow crunches. Each step leaves a soft imprint, shallow, temporary. By midday, they may be gone. By tomorrow, forgotten. You pass a woodpile. Split logs stacked neatly. Some still glisten with sap. Others are dry as bone. Someone cut them by hand. Someone counted how many it would take to last until the first thaw. Everything here is shaped by effort, by hand, by blade, by time. You pause at the edge of the path, where two houses face each. Other. Both look the same, thick timber, low roofs, smoke holes dark with soot. But one smells faintly of smoked fish, and the other of sheep's wool. Inside, their worlds are different. But out here, they are joined by the snow, by the cold, by the season. A dog watches you from a doorway. Old, gray around the muzzle. It does not bark. It blinks once, then lays its head back on its paws. Even it knows this hour is not for noise. The village feels asleep, but it is not. It is listening, like the ice listens, like the sky listens. Not waiting for change, just watching, breathing, being. You take one more slow breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth. It fogs the air again and disappears. You've seen this village every day of your life, and yet today, as always, it feels new. Not because it has changed, but because you have returned to it, step by step, in silence, with hands that remember, with feet that endure, with eyes that see without rushing. You turn back toward the house. The chores are done. The fire is waiting, and the cold. It walks beside you as always. You do not race it. You do not flee it. You simply carry it, and you go home. Pasturous back inside the longhouse, the air greets you not with warmth, but with familiarity. It is still smoky, still heavy, but it feels different now, less like something you must escape, and more like something that belongs to you, that you belong to. The fire has caught fully. Its glow paints slow, flickering light across the beams, crawling gently up the soot-darkened walls. It does not blaze. It breathes. And in that breath, you feel the rhythm of this place, steady, slow, and eternal. You set the water down near the hearth. No one praises you. No one needs to. The task was not done for applause. It was done because it was needed. Like every other thing you'll do today, Dot, you sit on the edge of the bedding, and the straw shifts again beneath your weight. You rub your hands together once. They are still cold, but no longer trembling. You stretch your feet toward the fire, not to chase the cold away. That would take hours, but to tell your body, you've done enough for now. And that's the rhythm. That's the truth of this life. You do, then you do again. Not because it is new, not because it is exciting, but because it is what must be done. And over time, over days and years and seasons, the doing becomes something more. It becomes identity. Here, you are not what you own. You are what you endure, what you carry, what you repeat without fail. Even when no one is watching, the rhythm is not a cage. It is not a burden. It is a shape. It is a vessel you pour your life into. And slowly, without trying, that life begins to hold together. You rise each day. You light the fire. You haul the water. You mend the net. You check the goats. You share the bread. You sit near the warmth. You sleep. You begin again, and it never feels finished. But it never feels wasted, Dot, because in this rhythm, your hands remember how to make. Your feet remember where to go. Your breath falls into the same pace as the wind and the fire and the snow that never asks for permission. Some would call it monotony, but you know better. You know it is peace, not the loud peace of songs and still lakes, but the quiet peace of knowing your place in the world, of being woven into its fabric so deeply that even your silence means something. Here, you do not chase greatness. You do not seek glory. You simply continue, and in continuing, you live. You lean forward, closer to the fire once more. Its warmth no longer feels distant. It greets you now, not as a stranger, but as something earned, gently offered, softly held. The flames flicker low, curled around thick logs you placed earlier. They burn slowly, deliberately, with none of the drama of fresh kindling. Only calm, only light. You rest your hands near the edge of the stones, palms open, fingers loose, no longer working, just being. Around you, the longhouse has settled again. Others move in silence. You hear them, bare feet on packed earth, water poured from a ladle, a quiet voice humming some half-forgotten tune to a child not yet fully awake, but mostly. You hear stillness, not silence. Stillness, a living, breathing pause that fills the space like smoke once did. Gentle, present. Everywhere, the chores are not done. They never truly are. There will always be more. Ropes to tie, tools to mend, straw to replace, ashes to sweep. But this moment, right now, belongs to the fire, to you, to the space between. You close your eyes, not in sleep, not yet, but in rest. The warmth touches your knees, your hands, your chest. It rises slowly, like steam from fresh snow. It doesn't fight the cold. It simply coexists with it. That's what life here teaches you. Not how to conquer, but how to coexist. With cold, with work, with repetition. With silence, Dot, your breath has slowed now. Deep, measured. You no longer try to match the rhythm of the day. It matches you. It wraps around you like a blanket, stitched from habit and quiet strength. You feel your heartbeat steady like the crackle of the fire. You feel the floor beneath you, solid, unchanging. You feel the longhouse, alive with memory, with smoke, with time, and you feel no rush. There is no next thing, no urgency. Just this moment, this warmth, this peace. That you are not heroic. You are not weak. You are simply here, alive, enduring, belonging. And the fire, the same fire you woke this morning, burns still. Because of you. Because of hands that rise. Because of steps that continue. Because of lives that begin again each time the cold returns. You exhale once more. Long, even, final dot, and you let yourself rest. Not in a bed, not in a dream, but in this place, this breath, this moment. The fire glows. The house sleeps. The cold waits outside. And all is as it should be. Introducing the Viking farmer as an anonymous figure, not remembered by history, not glorified, but quietly real. There is no song written for him, no saga passed down, no carved stone bearing his likeness, no name inked into scroll or rune. Was not a warrior. He did not sail west to find gold, nor east to trade silk. He did not take up an axe in battle, nor shout his name across the wind. He was a man of earth, and the earth does not remember names, only footsteps, only the weight of those who walked it. He was born in the back of a longhouse, in winter, during the hour when the goats had stopped making noise, and the frost had crept in beneath the fur bedding down. No one marked the date, only that it was cold and quiet, and that he survived. He did not choose this life. No one did. It was simply what was. The farm was here. The land was here. The family was here. And so he stayed. When he was old enough to carry a pail, he carried a pail. When he was strong enough to lift a stone, he lifted stones. When he was tall enough to reach the beam, he helped raise the roof again after the storm. No question, no praise, just motion, just repetition. His hands became strong long before. His voice did. His back bent in the same direction as his father's. His hair thickened with soot and ash before it ever met the salt of the sea. He grew tall, but never grand. Broad, but never proud. He did not walk like a hero. He walked like a man who had carried too many buckets, too many mornings in a row. There was no ceremony, no rite of passage. One day he rose and was expected to continue. That was manhood. No sword, no feast. just waking and working. He does not live alone, but much of his life feels that way. Even among family, there is only quiet, a language of motion, a rhythm of tasks. Very few words, fewer still of affection, but everything done is a kind of care, even when it is not named. He has known no glory, but he has known hunger. He has known what it feels like to plant seeds that do not grow, to chop wood with a cracked axe head, to patch holes in boots using leather taken from an old harness. He has known the frostbite that waits beneath the joy of first snow. He has known the ache that never truly leaves the knees once it arrives. He has known the sound of an empty grain sack and the silence that follows it. And yet, he continues, because this is what must be done, and he knows nothing else. And perhaps there is a kind of peace in that. He is a Viking, but not the kind from stories. Not the raider, not the warrior, not the skull splitter, not the sea king. He is the Viking behind the wall, the one who keeps the goats fed, the one who tills the stubborn earth, the one who builds the roof so others can rest beneath it. He will not be remembered, but he remembers every frost, every harvest, every hour spent between fire and snow. He is the reason others survive, and he asks for nothing, because no one ever taught him to ask. He wakes. He works. He watches the seasons change. And tomorrow he will do it again. Asterisk, the unforgiving soil of Viking farms, rocky thin, slow to produce. A land that resists. Asterisk, the land does not open itself willingly. Not here. Not in this place where the soil is thin and the rocks rise like old bones beneath every patch of green. It is not soft. It does not give. It must be taken. Every inch he knows this land, not in the way a poet knows a landscape, not for its beauty, but for its resistance, for its weight, for the way it fights back. Each spring, he walks the edge of his field, boots sinking slightly into the thawing mud, eyes scanning for stone. They always return. No matter how many he cleared last year, they surface again, heaved upward by frost and time, as if the earth is spitting them out on purpose. He gathers them, one by one, dropping each into a worn basket with the same hollow. Sound. Wood against stone. Stone against stone. The sound of 1,000 mornings. 1,000 beginnings. He cannot use a plow here. The soil is too shallow. The stones too many. He works it with a mattock, its blade dull, its handle smoothed by years of sweat and repetition. He swings it not with force, but with rhythm. Not to conquer, but to coax. To ask the land for space. And sometimes it listens. Sometimes the blade breaks through. Sometimes the dirt turns, but more often it resists. There are no neat furrows here. No wide, open fields. Just small plots. Rough rectangles marked by rows of sticks or broken fence. Each one scratched from the earth by hand over years. Over decades. He plants barley. Sometimes rye, sometimes cabbage. whatever might survive, not because he hopes for abundance, but because he cannot afford to hope for nothing. He watches the weather more closely than he watches the stars. The stars do not bring frost, the clouds do, and the wind not too much rain, and the roots drown, too little, and they wither. Either way, they are quiet about it. The land does not scream. It simply fails to feed you. When the sprouts come, they come slowly, thin green shoots poking through dirt like fingers through ash. He checks them each morning, not with joy, but with measured patience. They are not a promise. They are a test dot. If they grow, he may have enough. If not, there is fish. Or perhaps not. There is no irrigation. Only buckets. Only waiting. Only watching the sky and learning how to read its moods like a silent god. Sometimes he kneels in the dirt, hand buried in soil still cold from the night, and he whispers, not a prayer, not a plea, just a quiet thought. Please, just enough. The land says nothing back. It never does. But he rises. He wipes his hands, and he keeps digging. A Viking farmer's tools, worn, humble, essential. They are not symbols of battle, but of survival. Asterisk, he does not carry a sword. He owns no helmet, no mail shirt, no shield painted with the colors of his clan. He has never stepped aboard a longship, and yet his hands are strong, stronger than most. Calloused, thick-knuckled, cracked where the cold seeps in, and rough where rope has burned the skin too many times to heal smooth again. His weapons are not for war. They do not shine. They are not passed down with honor. They are passed down because they still work, because no one could afford to replace them. He begins each day with his hoe, a simple wooden shaft, taller than his waist, capped with an N, iron blade that has been chipped, sharpened, and chipped again. The edge is no longer straight. It curves slightly, like a smile worn tired, but it bites the soil when it must, not deeply, but enough. He leans on it sometimes, more out of habit than fatigue. The weight is familiar. He could find the balance point with his eyes closed. Beside, it propped near the corner of the house, is his scythe, long, curved, elegant in its own crude way. The blade was once sharper, when it was new, when it was not notched by stones hidden in the tall grass. Still, it moves well in his hands, a slow, sweeping arc, left to right, right to left, a dance with the field, silent, precise. The whetstone he uses to sharpen it is small now, worn thin. He spits on it once before grinding the edge. A sound he knows better than birdsong. Rough, steady, necessary dot in the shed. More a lean-to, really. There is a small chest. Inside, a hammer with a split handle wrapped in sinew, a draw knife, a chisel, 3 bent nails, and a spoon carved from. Antler, not for eating, for digging. Small things, gentle things, quiet things. He knows the feel of each tool before he even touches it. The way the hammer pulls slightly to the left. The way the chisel slides too easily when wet. The way the draw knife cuts best on the third pull, not the first. There is a basket, too, woven by his wife from strips of pine root. It holds spare rope, a bit of cloth, and an old leather sheath that once held a knife he no longer owns. Still, he keeps it, because the sheath remembers. His hands don't shake. Not yet, but they tire, faster than they used to. He feels it when he lifts the axe, not the warrior's axe, but the splitting axe, broad-headed and dull, used not for battle, but for firewood. Each swing is the same, raised, dropped, split. Again, that the log doesn't care how strong he is, only how often he tries, and so he tries, again and again, until the wood is stacked, until the rope is coiled, until the blade is dull again, and must be sharpened once more. These are not glorious things. These are not heroes' tools, but they are his. They work when he does. They sleep when he sleeps. They wait without complaint, just like him. Asterisk the Viking farmer's body, not built by design, but sculpted by daily, unchanging labor. Asterisk he does not train. He does not lift for strength, nor run for speed. He does not test his limits or count his breath or track his growth. He works, and the work shapes him. His body is not elegant. It is not chiseled, not balanced, not symmetrical. It is useful. It is dependable. It is heavy in the way that rope is heavy when soaked, in the way that timber is heavy when green. Not bloated, not inflated, just full of years of repetition, of carrying. His shoulders curve forward, slightly hunched from years spent hauling buckets, hoisting sacks, swinging axes. His forearms are thick, not from squeezing, but from holding tools, holding gates, holding the weight of a half-frozen goat in one arm while clearing snow with the other. The palms of his hands are hard, not cracked, not bleeding, just hard, thickened, worn smooth in places where rope and wood have passed over them again and again. They are hands meant for holding, not pointing, not writing, just holding. His knees ache when he rises. They always have, even when he was young. They spoke back to him, not with sharpness, but with memory. They remember every crouch, every bend, every time he knelt to pull weeds or to dig a channel for rainwater before the storm came. His back is the oldest part of him. It is where the years gather, where cold lies longest, where the pain settles after a long day, then rests there overnight, only to wake with him again. Come morning dot, he stretches, but not to feel loose, only to feel less tight. He massages his own shoulder while walking to the field, pressing one. Calloused thumb into the knot beneath the bone, not to fix it, but to live with it. Because it has become part of him, his feet are shaped by the boots, wide, flattened, the toes pressed in slightly from years of wearing the same pair. Through slush and stone and snow, he can walk barefoot across pebbles without blinking. Because the soles of his feet have learned to stop noticing pain, it will never leave. His chest is not broad, but it is solid. A hearth built around lungs that have breathed cold air every day since he was old enough to lift the door latch alone. His neck is thick, not from muscle, but from burden, from yokes, from sacks of grain, from carrying more than one thing at a time, always. He does not admire his reflection. There is no mirror, only the water in the stream, and he does not look down into it to see beauty, only to see if he has mud on his face before coming in for supper. There is no pride in his posture, but there is memory. Memory in every bone, in every tendon, in every shallow breath taken while dragging something heavier than he should have been lifting. And still, he lifts Dot, and still, he walks, and still, his body moves without question, without complaint, without expectation of rest, not because it is strong, but because it is needed. The Viking farmer's year, how each season brought a new kind of hardship. Time itself was the enemy. Asterisk, there are 4 seasons here, but none are easy, none are kind. Only different shapes of scarcity, different ways the world withholds comfort. Spring comes first, but not the spring of songbirds and soft breezes. Not here. Spring arrives reluctantly, dragging its heels behind the snowdrifts, melting only when the ground finally forgets how to hold the frost. The soil is wet then, slick and clumped, unwilling to break. It clings to boots. It clogs tools. It smells. Of rot and thawed dung dot seeds are planted, not with hope, but with caution, because frost can still return in the night. Because last year it did. The goats shed their winter coats, leaving fur tangled in fences. Chickens begin to lay again, slowly, not because they're ready, but because the days stretch longer. The light pulls at them. The farmer rises earlier, sleeps less, waits to see if the barley will break through this year. Then comes summer, the busiest time, the only time when the earth offers something without being asked twice. But even summer is not generous, just less cruel. Fields must be weeded, nets mended, hay gathered and dried, turned over, stacked tight against future hunger. The sun stays high, but the air is never truly warm, just not cold. Enough to sweat through your tunic while knowing you'll still see your breath. Come nightfall. Mosquitoes swarm, biting, buzzing, relentless. The days blur into each other. There are no holidays, no days off. Only work that must be done before the light begins to fade, and fade it does. Fall arrives with the scent of wood smoke and the whisper of closing doors. It is not a season. It is a warning. Everything must be gathered now. Everything must be stored. The root cellar filled. The roof patched. The animals fattened, if they are to live. The wind turns sharp. Leaves fall, but not in bursts of color. Here they brown, curl, disappear into mud. The first snow can come early. It often does. And when it does, whatever wasn't done will not be done. And then winter. Winter is not a season. It is a presence. A slow pressing silence that settles into the lungs, into the joints, into the days that grow so short, you barely remember what light looks like. Work becomes survival. Fire becomes currency. Wood is rationed. Meals are thinner. Sometimes there is meat. Sometimes not that the goats are quiet. The chickens slow. The children stay close to the fire. And so does he. When there's enough fuel. When there's time, the roof drips during thaws and refreezes into hard teeth of ice that threaten to fall when the wind grows angry. And all you can do is endure through the season, through the hunger, through the stillness that feels like waiting for something. That never comes. And then spring again. The cycle repeats. But never the same dot, because each year you carry more of the last one. In your back, in your knees. In the way your eyes linger longer on the fields before stepping into them again. Asterisk, the Viking farmer's relationship with his animals. Not sentimental, not cruel, but necessary and observant. Asterisk, the animals do not speak, not in words, not in stories, not in the way sagas are told around a hearth, but they speak in other ways. And he has learned to listen, not with his ears alone, but with patience, with presence, with repetition. The goats are the first he tends each morning. They stir before the sun, moving gently in their straw beds, nudging each other, rising without complaint. Their breath fogs the cold air, soft clouds drifting from velvet muzzles. They bleat, low, short, restrained, not calling, just announcing their awareness, that they are ready, that they are hungry. He checks their legs, their bellies, their hooves. His fingers slide under fur, feeling for swelling, for cuts, for cold that lingers too deep. The goats do not flinch. They know his hands. They trust. The rhythm. They accept what must be done, because it is always the same. Because survival has no room for surprises. There is a smell to them, a mixture of wool and dung and something slightly sour, like milk left out too long. But he does not mind it. It is the smell of warmth, of yield, of purpose. They give milk when the season is right. Sometimes enough to make cheese. Sometimes only enough to keep the children fed. When one grows sick, he does not panic. He observes. He listens. He gives warmth, space, herbs if he has them. But sometimes that is not enough. The chickens are less predictable. They scatter. They scratch. They do not come when called. But they return to roost. Always, even when the wind howls, and the ground is white, and there is no feed to offer. They move like thoughts, quick, untrusting, but oddly faithful. They lay eggs, or they don't. There is no explanation, only the rhythm of light, of warmth, of mood. He watches them peck at the frozen earth, searching for bugs that will not come. Still they try, still they move. Even without hope. The sheep are different, slower, heavier. Their eyes hold no fire, only fog. They stare without focus, without question. They chew, they breathe, they follow. Their wool is everything. Spun by his wife, dyed with lichen and bark. woven into tunics and blankets that never feel quite warm enough, but are better than nothing. In spring, the sheep are sheared, not quickly, not with ceremony, just patiently, one after another. The fleece rolled, combed, cleaned, stored. He does not name them. They are not pets. They are not companions. They are part of the farm, just as he is, just as the tools are, just as the frost is, each with a task, each with a season. He speaks to them sometimes, not expecting understanding, just to hear something other than the wind. Soft words, barely above a whisper, sometimes only breath shaped by thought. Do not respond, but they do not leave. Their silence is not cold. It is not absence. It is agreement, a shared endurance, a quiet knowing that they too exist by repetition, by rhythm, by the will to continue. He feeds them, cleans them, guards them, and sometimes ends them when there is no other choice. When winter presses too hard, when there are more mouths than meals. And he does it with stillness, never joy, never sorrow, just the knowledge that the fire must be kept alive. That life requires sacrifice, and someone must bear it. He does not pray over them. He does not sing. He simply lowers his head and moves with care, because the animals may not speak, but they deserve silence. He does not live alone, but many days it feels that way, not because he is unloved, not because he is forgotten, but because there is so little room for anything but work. Still, his family moves beside him, always, in silence, in rhythm, in the quiet language of duty. His wife is up before him some mornings, tending to the hearth, pulling stale bread from a linen wrap, warming it near the embers. She does not wake him with words. She does not ask him to rise. She simply begins, and he follows, like he always has. She was not chosen for love, nor he for charm, but they chose each other in the way people here do, by surviving together, by enduring seasons and loss and hunger without needing to name what they share. Her hands are small, but cracked and thickened from weaving, from washing, from lifting stones and children and baskets full of roots that must be scrubbed before they're worth boiling. She spins wool when there is time. She rarely sings, only hums, a low, tuneless rhythm while her fingers work the spindle, thread twisting like a thought unspoken. Their children are not idle. They do not play in fields or chase birds through flowers. They carry buckets, hold sticks, fetch kindling, learn how to knead the dough without losing too much flour to the wind. The youngest is quiet. He watches everything, mimics his father's walk, his mother's silence. He has already learned that attention is more valuable than questions. Sometimes, in the evening, when the chores are done, they sit around the fire, not talking, not storytelling, just sitting, a bowl passed hand to hand, one pair of boots being mended, a goat chewing softly nearby, the crackle of logs and the sound of breath shared between them. That is family. Not noise, not smiles, not embraces, but presence, reliability, being where one must be, doing what must be done, without needing to say, why. He watches his wife's hands as she braids twine. He watches his daughter's brow furrow as she lifts a pot too heavy. He watches the boy trace runes into the ash with a stick, imitating letters he cannot read. And he feels something. Not joy, not pride. Something quieter. Something deeper. Like warmth found deep under layers of frost. Unexpected. But real, Dot, there are no I love yous. No, I'm proud of you. There is only, I will do this with you. I will carry this with you. I will not leave. And in that silence, they build something stronger than any longship, any sword, any saga. Build a life, together, one day at a time, in ash, in frost, in the faint orange glow of a fire that never quite reaches the corners. Asterisk, there are nights when the fire does not burn. Not because they forgot, not because they chose, but because there was nothing left to feed it. No dry wood, no scrap of bark, only ash, only memory. Dot, those are the hardest nights. Not loud, not painful, just endless. You can feel them coming. The way the cold thickens before the sun has even set. The way the wind slides through the cracks between beams. The way the longhouse seems to shrink, as if pulling into itself, bracing. On those nights, the family gathers close. Not around the hearth, but against one another. Layered in wool, in fur, in silence. There is no light. The moon may shine through a seam in the roof, but it offers no heat. Only shadows. Only stillness. The animals sleep with them, if space allows. Their warmth is small, but it helps. A goat against your side can make the difference between rest and shivering through the night. No one speaks. There is nothing to say, no comfort to offer, only breath. Shared, visible in the air like fog, like ghosts, like prayers with no words. On those nights, his hands curl beneath his arms, not to hide from the cold, but to protect them, because they must work tomorrow, and they cannot be stiff, cannot crack, cannot bleed. The cold bits into the joints, the knees, the spine. It sits there like a second skin, uncheckable. Sleep does not come easily. It comes in pieces, in flickers, interrupted by tremors in the chest, by the ache in the back, by the knowledge that morning will not fix it, only begin it again. The worst nights are the ones where hunger joins the cold, where supper was thin or skipped or never existed. The belly knots, and the mind drifts toward warmth that isn't there. But even then, he does not complain. Not aloud, not even inwardly. He simply endures, like stone, like soil, like wood under snow. Because there is no other choice. And because he knows the cold will not last forever, only long enough to see what will survive it, and he will, not with strength, not with warmth, but with stillness. With breath, slow, even, resigned. And when the sky turns pale and the frost shivers its way back into the beams, he will rise. He will light the fire if there is fuel. He will work the earth if it can be worked, and he will not speak of the night, because there is nothing to say, because it has already passed, and the day has already begun. Morning returns the same way it always does, not with song, not with color, but with gray light seeping through the cracks in the longhouse roof. It does not ask permission. It does not announce itself. It simply arrives. And so does he. He wakes slowly. He blinks once. He stretches a leg beneath the fur blanket. And he rises, not because he feels rested, not because he wants to, but because the fire needs tending, because the water must be hauled, because the animals wait. The aches remain in his back, in his hands, in the deep place behind his ribs where fatigue has built its home. But he does not curse them. They are part of the rhythm, just like the smoke, the frost, the silence. He moves through the house, his boots finding their way across the packed dirt floor without needing to see. Every step a memory, every motion a habit, not rushed, not delayed. Just next. He lifts the mattock, he checks the pail. He nods once at the goat that meets his eye, as if to say, we're still here, and that's all it is. That's all this life has ever been, still here, not louder, not larger, just steady, just continuing. There is no festival for him. No storyteller will sing of the way he mended the roof in the middle of a storm, or how he carried 2 children in his arms across a field of melting snow because the flood had come early. No stone will bear his face. No name will echo down the halls of time. But that was never the point. He did not live to be remembered. He lived so others could remember, so others could eat, so others could grow. And when the day ends, when the sun slips behind the trees, and the coals glow red beneath the pot, he sits, not in pride, not in exhaustion, but in knowing that tomorrow will come, and he will meet it, with the same hands, the same boots, the same silence. He will rise, he will step outside, he will do what must be done, and he will do it again tomorrow. And so the day ends just as it began, quietly, without glory, without noise, only the soft rhythm of breath and the fading glow of the fire. You've seen a world few speak of, not the Viking of legend, not the warrior in saga, but the farmer, the laborer, the one who rose each morning not to conquer, but to carry. You walked his village, you felt his cold, you carried his buckets, his silence, his weight, and still he wakes again. And still he endures. No one remembers his name. But maybe, just for tonight, you will. If your eyes have grown heavy, let them close. If your thoughts are still turning, let them slow. Here, in the silence of the longhouse, you are safe. You are warm. You are far from battle. You are home. Asterisk, if you'd like to return to this world again, there are more stories waiting. Subscribe to the channel for more quiet journeys into forgotten lives, more soft voices, more distant fires. until next time, rest well, and may your dreams be steady like the rhythm of the Old North.